At this time, we'll call Hampton County Board of Commissioners May the 7th meeting to order. And I'd like to welcome each of you here tonight, and we appreciate you always coming out to be here with us. And you're welcome to stay through the whole meeting if you like. At this time, we'll have our invocation by Pastor Steve Adams with the Harvest Ministry Outreach Center.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, County Commissioners, for all that you do. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you first for this day. Your word declares that your mercies are new every morning. We thank you for a day we didn't get to see before, so we're blessed. We ask you for wisdom, Lord, for these county commissioners as they talk about the business at hand for our great county. The county we get to be a part of, the county we get to live in, the county we get to serve, and we don't have to, we get to. And we're blessed for that, God. So I speak blessings on these county commissioners, blessings on our county as a whole, blessings on our citizens, and may your face shine among us, God, and everything that we do, let it be done according to your will and your way. And it's in your Son's name, Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Mr. Chair, if I could take just 1 second of your time, I wanted to introduce our new Assistant Director at the Board of Elections. Ms. Sherry Melton is our new Assistant Director. She started last Monday. And she stand everybody. So come on, don't be shy. I want to thank the commissioners for your support of that hire. And she's doing a good job, and throw her in the fire here real soon. All right? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Adam, and welcome aboard, Ms. Melton. Okay, at this time we will have the approval of the agenda by the commissioners, and I'd like to remind each commissioner if there's an item in accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, if there's something on this agenda that is a conflict, we need to know at this time. You will have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Chairman. Additions.
Okay.
I had four additions I would like to make. I
All right.
apologize for the tardiness in my suggestions. Underneath the consent agenda, underneath 3E, it would be consideration of a support letter for the Sandhill Center. You have it out your desk. It's in support of NCACC and the Sandhill Center, the redesigned tailored plan. All it says is that Anson County supports what's happening with that center. And then the next three additions are going to be budget amendments. The first one, 3F, consideration for airport construction project. 3G, finance is requesting they remove money to support a position that we currently have there. And then number 4, which is 3H, a budget amendment for Anson County Schools. So those are the 3 amendments and the total.
All those are good. In fact, the airport construction project will greatly increase safety at the airport.
I make a motion that we approve.
Would you add that?
Yes, the
Second.
add to the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda and add the Y, E, F, and G, and H to our consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, let it be known by aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. At this time, we will have a public hearing, rezoning request, and we will have a motion to go in.
Move on to public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. At this time, we ask Mr. Larry Newton to come forward.
Thank you. This is judicial. Does anybody here want to speak to this tonight? Denise up here would like to place you under oath. Mike,
I will first.
do what?
I will first time with this one.
That's fine. Commissioners, I have a report and a recommendation from the planning board for rezoning. Mike Flake, here in attendance tonight, is requesting a zoning change on 2.13 acres located at 13102 Highway 74 West, Peachland. This location is about 2,500 feet from the Union County line in the westbound lane. Just to give you a little background, the Anson County Planning Board met on April the 4th, held a public hearing. Prior to the meeting, a zoning sign was placed on the property. All adjacent and surrounding property owners were notified by first-class mail. Newspaper ads were published in the Anson Record. The planning board was sent an information packet prior to the hearing. No one from the public was in attendance at the meeting to voice an objection to the change in the zoning. Change will be changed. His request is to change the current zoning from R20 residential to GB general business. There has been, to our records, at least 2 other businesses on this parcel in the past. One of them was Hancock Tire, and there was an auction house there at one time. I heard maybe there might even have been another one, I don't know. Before you tonight, in your information, you have his application, you have a property tax card. If you notice that the card that you have is already a commercial card, and that's due to the businesses that were there in the past. You have information from the school of government concerning spot zoning. If you change this from R20 to general business doesn't have any setbacks to the sidelines, but what it says is that if it adjoins residential property, it has to honor the setbacks that are applied to that residential property. And if you measure the improvements on this property, you'll find out that the existing improvements do meet that criteria. So it wouldn't be in violation of the setbacks if you approve the change. In your packet, you have general business, the permitted uses and structures, and you also have R20, which it is current, showing permitted principal uses and structures. That's what is allowed. If he gets outside of those perimeters of what's mentioned in general business, he'd be back before the planning board, and he'd be back before you county commissioners. You have a survey, you have a map. We also have, or he has, or you've got an application from NCDOT with an ingress and egress driveway for business purposes approved. In addition to the current R20 zoning in that area, you have heavy industrial, light industrial. You have businesses there joining it, such as Edward Wood Products to the north and to the west. You also have a church, United Baptist Church of Peachland. You have Anson Metals to the east in the westbound lane. And you have Quikrete coming in on the eastbound lane. It's actually to the west of it, but it's on the eastbound lane. A change in zoning will not change the property values adjacent or in the surrounding area. The planning board considered the future transitioning of the area and the growth on Highway 74 along this section, and the location being close to Union County. Potential business growth was a factor in the decision of the board. And then our recommendation to you tonight, Mike stated at the planning board meeting that the existing building was in need of repair, but he believed it was structurally sound. All improvements that he would do to the building would have to be permitted and inspected and stay within the general business zone classifications if approved. It was determined that in changing this and in making this recommendation to you, that it is in line with our 2021 comprehensive use plan, especially along the Highway 74 corridor. This change would not put, that we can determine the public at risk. All conditions are met if you do the change, if you approve the change in zoning tonight. Property values are not injured, nor will they change in the surrounding properties. And we feel like that this change is in harmony with that Highway 74 corridor. And it is in the westbound lane, and it is within a quarter mile of the Union County line. So the financial impact on this is minimal. We're requesting for you to approve the zoning change. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. I'm gonna ask Mike. Mike's here tonight, and if you would like to ask him some questions, he certainly will come to the podium.
Well, I think it seems like everything else has been at the same criteria. Proper notice was given to the surrounding property owners and advertisement?
Yes,
Okay.
in other words, everything was done.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, it was. Newspaper ads, letters, first-class mail, zoning sign, all of it was taken care of.
I represent that area, and of course, and I only got one call, and it was not an objection.
Any questions you have for me or for
Do
Mike?
any other commissioner have any questions? Mr.
Just
Woodbury?
one, I guess this is just rezoning for just that one particular spot, and I guess it is because of the, reference to, spot zoning.
Yes.
And I guess, I'm in agreement with, your comments about possibly future commercial growth in this area. It may not be appropriate at this time to zone any more than just a request for this one spot. That's kind of what I'm asking.
I feel that way, and I'll address that back when zoning was applied down 74. I feel like that there are some residents right in there.
Oh, okay.
But let me say this. I think that the zoning, when it was put in place in 2005, they had to keep in mind accommodating what was on some of those properties.
Right.
Like, for instance, if you had a house and it was residential and they classified it as business or zoned it as business, then they wouldn't be able to build that structure back if you changed it. So I think it accommodated, in other words, some of the environment and some of the structures that were along the highway there.
I'm sure Mr. Flake doesn't have this in mind, but I think with the present regulations, bars and nightclubs are not allowed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I knew you didn't have that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody would have thought of it.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here would like to speak or ask any questions about this rezoning issue? If not, do we have a
I
motion?
move we come out of public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to come out of public hearing. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the request for rezon.
I'll second. It's way the property is configured, the business would probably be back to the back and would really be sort of more secluded than you might think.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct, Mr. Flake?
The current building is 60 foot by 66 foot. The metal buildings you basically barely see from the highway. It's located about 2/3 of the way back.
That's what I thought.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, let it be known by aye. Opposed? Thank you. Pass unanimous. All right, we'll move right along. And our consent agenda, we have minutes, property tax refund, budget amendment, and budget amendments. Both of the amendments is from the health department, and the add-on that our county manager told us about us earlier. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that each item under the consent agenda is then approved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Pass unanimous. Clerk.
Does that include the additional amendments?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, this time we'll move right along to our public addresses to the board. And our first appearance is Mr. Robbie Harrington.
Thank you very much.
Before
And
we
I know
start
I
out,
only have
I'm
3
sorry.
minutes.
I want to tell everyone in our public addresses to the board, each person have 3 minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrington.
No problem. I was warned about the 3 minutes. So I will do my best, okay?
All right.
I want to remind, I am here for the Ag Civic Center, and I don't mind telling you, I am disappointed with you as a group. 2007, 12 years ago, I was a fairly young man at that time, and I had visions of seeing that building. Now I'm an old man, and I have no hope of ever seeing that building. And all I want you to do is live up to your obligations as a group, as a body. You voted for it, you approved the money, and now you're trying to back off on it. And I am disappointed with you. I'm an old man, but I think that somewhere along the line, you are going to mislead the youth of this county by saying you did something, and now you're trying to back it off. I am all for the Department of Social Services. They need a new building. That's a shame that somebody has to work in that. Education, I was born and I was raised here. I went to high school here. Got a college degree and chose to live in 2 states that didn't have income tax, Florida and Tennessee. I'm now retired. I live here. I try to work. I try to be a good citizen. Most of you I know. And I am appalled. I was at this last meeting and watched y'all shimmy and shake and jump away from it. I am all for this education, this new building. But every time the state of North Carolina tells you something, there's a reason for it. That's all I want to do is try to get you to think about what you committed to. 2007, this body voted to approve and build that Ag Civic Center. And I'm talking about the economic part. I'm not talking about the ag part. I had the pleasure of hosting your Anson Leadership Council last week. You had 20 or 25 people there that were super. They looked at cows, they looked at goats, and they trying to understand that economically, agriculture puts more money in your pockets than any other industry in this county. And yet you won't pay attention to us. Please, think about what you're voting for and why. You paid for the land and you're gonna lose it. Because there's a board of directors at Wade Mill that can say, this deal's off, we get the land back. And if y'all don't do something, we're gonna be in trouble. I hope I'm within my 3 minutes, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Miss Megan Lambert.
Hello, good evening. I'm coming from Richmond County tonight, and I don't have anything prepared to share with you, but I did want to just introduce myself as the new Executive Director for Tourism, and I'm very excited about working with Anson County and the other surrounding counties. And when I talked to the county and the city manager about coming tonight, they've always had very kind, optimistic words to share about Anson County and how receptive Anson was to working with Richmond and other counties in promoting tourism and getting things to our county. As you probably know, we have a huge music festival this weekend called Epicenter that's coming to our county, and we're looking to bring around 100,000 people throughout the weekend in the county, which will affect Anson, Scotland, Moore, all of our surrounding counties, the whole region, just because of the size of the music festival. So I thought this was a great time to come and introduce myself and say I'm very excited about working with you all. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Don't leave yet. Mr. John Mary. Where's John?
He's back there.
Stand up. told her about you, Mickey. This is our.
Okay, thank you, Mr. John Merritt.
Good evening, Commissioners. I want to take about 3 minutes tonight to brag on Anson County and on you. We've had a really amazing string of announcements here in the county over the past few weeks, and I want to talk to you about one other one that's coming up later this week. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the Rev Uptown development, which is happening right across the street over here. We're in the process of that right now. Of course, we have Speckled Paw Coffee is going to be coming in there. We also announced last week that a company called Borgstina, which is actually a Swedish company, although their current facility is in Portugal, is going to be moving their offices and tech center to the incubator at Rev Uptown. So we're very excited about that. And in between those two announcements, we announced that the fine folks out at the vineyard at the old place who came in and talked to you all about their winery broke ground a couple of weeks ago down by White Store, and so that's all been very, very exciting. So that's a lot of really, really good things happening for Anson County. This Thursday at 2:30 at the Lockhart Taylor Center, Studio A, we are going to be having Chief Deputy Secretary of Commerce Crable in town to make an announcement on Project Compounder. Now, you all know a lot about Project Compounder. We've talked about that in the past. I can't say anything more in public right now about that, but at 2:30 on Thursday, we will be making that formal announcement for Project Compounder. I hope that you all will be able to make that. I have asked Commissioner Streeter as chairman to say a few words, and he believes he'll be able to make it. I hope he can, but we'd love to have any of you who can make it out there for that event. It's going to be really great. It's not often we have a Chief Deputy Secretary of Commerce in town to make an announcement, so you know it's a fairly major deal. So thank you very much, and appreciate everything you do for the county.
Thank you, and we'll try to be there. Mr. Woodburn, are you going to be in town?
As a matter of fact, I am. I was going to go to Raleigh for County Assembly Day, but because of this, I'm going to stay here, so I'll be here.
I'll be in the dentist office at 3 o'clock. Out of town.
Oh, wait a minute, Thursday. No, County Assembly Day is tomorrow, so it's not an issue.
All right. Okay, we'll move right along to item 5, our appearance. Dr. Fred Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see everybody. I'm pleased to present our county health rankings, our 2019 county health rankings. Yvonne has some extra copies if anybody would like a copy. And this year, I gave you the complete 15-page report. And I did that for a couple reasons. First of all, just in case anyone really wants to dig into the data beyond what I'm going to summarize tonight, you can do that. But secondly, if you remember when I was here in March and we went over the State of the County Health Report, I mentioned that the Healthy North Carolina 2030 goals were being developed, and they're going to be released in January. And I think what we're going to see when they are released is that they're going to be formatted similar to the county health rankings. And so to the extent that you're familiar with the format of county health rankings, I think it will be beneficial when the Healthy North Carolina 2030 goals are released in January. As you might suspect, our rankings haven't changed that much in the last 12 months, and that's fairly typical for all the counties. If you flip to page 10, take a look at, you can see that overall, you have all your counties from Alamance to Yancey, and Anson is ranked number 90
Page
on
66.
health outcomes, quality of life, longevity, and 91 on the health factors. And what you see from year to year, like this year, the counties are in the top 10. Union, Mecklenburg, Wake, Orange tend to remain in the top 10, and the ones that are in the bottom quartile, the bottom 10, Scotland, Richmond, Anson, tend to stay in that position. And last year on health outcomes, we were rated we ranked number 90, and that's where we are this year. We have made some improvements and some progress, and I'm going to point them out here in a minute. The next page, I labeled it 10A, and that is not part of the official document. I made it up because I like to compare how we look to Union and Richmond in comparison to the state. So at the top there on health outcomes, we were 90 last year, we're 90 this year. Union County, you can see we're much closer to Richmond than we are to Union, with Union being number 3 there. The health factors, last year we were 87. We've slipped a little bit there to 91. I don't know that that's really much more than just the way they calculated. Going down the page towards the middle, I'm pleased to report that our STD rate has come down. Last year it was 768, and you can see it's improved this year, and still above the state average, but much less than Richmond, for example. One area where we've had some success is reducing the rate of unwanted teen pregnancies, and those numbers you see, like 46, 18, whatever, that's based on a number of teen pregnancy in women between the ages of 15 and 19 per 1,000, just to put that in perspectives. We were at 51 in 2017, we came down to 46 last year, and you can see we've improved again this year. Still much higher than the state, and about 3 times as high as Union County, so we still feel we have some work to do in that area, and we are working on that. Your socioeconomic factors, the ones that jump out at you, of course, are children in poverty. We were at 36% last year. You can see where we are now compared to Union in the state. Children in single-parent households, and as this body well knows, poverty impacts all of these outcomes. One statistic that I want to share with you that isn't there, to me, is one of the most important ones, is the median household income. Anson is last year about 41,800. State of North Carolina median household income, median where half the families are above that and half are below, 56,000. But in Union County, this is to me quite illustrative, 77,800. And so when I listen to John Merrick and see the work that the Commission is doing with economic growth and development, it's become clear as you study the health rankings over the last several years, probably the most important social determinant of health is that median household income. And so to improve the quality of life for all of our citizens, which will in turn result in improved health outcomes for our citizens, probably nothing is more important than economic growth and development. Questions for me?
I would like to say in reference to Union County, if you drive in the western part of Union County, particularly in the rural areas, you will find some very, very wealthy residential areas. Those people are coming out of Charlotte. They make big time money. That's factored into the average.
I couldn't agree more. I've been told many times that Mint Hill is, Waxhaw much like Charlotte, but Marshfield is more like Anson. And I think that's accurate. Let me just finish up tonight. I want to try to provide a little context going forward here. For the last several years, the state of North Carolina has been in the process of privatizing the delivery of Medicaid services in the state. And you probably have heard about it. Sometimes it's called Medicaid transformation. More recently, they're calling it Medicaid managed care. And the state has been granted approval by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to privatize the delivery of Medicaid services in North Carolina. It's going to roll out starting in November, and it'll roll out in Anson County in February. And to me, it's going to operate similar to the health maintenance organizations, the HMOs. There have been 4 statewide managed care contracts awarded. They call them prepaid health plan under this particular approach. Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, a couple of others. Over the summer months and going into the fall, if you are a Medicaid recipient, we have about 4,500 people in Anson County on Medicaid. You will be required to sign up with one of those 4 plans. If you don't choose one, then the state will assign you to one. Right now, if you're on Medicaid and you come to the health department, we provide the service and we send the bill to Medicaid and we get reimbursed. Under Medicaid managed care, we will no longer be billing Medicaid. We will bill Blue Cross Blue Shield or United or whichever one of those 4 plans you signed up for. And the state will pay, let's say Commissioner Gatewood was receiving Medicaid and signed up with Blue Cross Blue Shield. The state will pay Blue Cross Blue Shield a fixed amount of money per month to take care of Mr. Gatewood, meet all of his health care needs. Per member per month, they call that, capitated payments. And if Blue Cross Blue Shield is successful in managing the care, then they'll make a profit. But they will be financially at risk, and if there's overutilization, etc., then they're financially at risk. So this award of these contracts is the largest contract ever awarded by the Department of Health and Human Services. It's like $1.9 billion over several years. And if you have not heard yet, you're going to see in your county health rankings and your Healthy North Carolina 2030 goals, there is a big push now for what they're calling the social determinants of health, meaning that Dr. Sims' health outcomes are related to a lot more than just the health services he receives. And they're calling that social determinants of health. And right now, the state of North Carolina is defining social determinants of health relative to Medicaid managed care as housing insecurity, food insecurity, transportation, and safety. And again, using Commissioner Gatewood as an example, if he has signed up with the prepaid health plan as a Medicaid beneficiary, Blue Cross Blue Shield, when he comes to the hospital, to the doctor's office, to the health department, we will be required to do a screening, conduct a screening, and if we find, for example, that Mr. Gatewood has food insecurity, and they define what that means, then we will be required to refer Mr. Gatewood to get that social determinant of health addressed. And so if you have not heard, you're going to be hearing a lot over the next couple years about these social determinants of health. And the goal is to provide whole person care that addresses not just your immediate medical needs, but the things that if you're housing insecure, lack of transportation, etc., then the state of North Carolina, in privatizing Medicaid, is going to ask the prepaid health plans to get you referred to somebody that can help you with your food insecurity, for example.
If Mr. Gatewood meets the requirements for food insecurity, Blue Cross Blue Shield is doomed.
We'll see. We'll see. But I just wanted to alert you to that. And if there's no questions, we'll see you next year with our 2020 county health rankings.
Okay, Dr. Thompson, we appreciate that report.
Yes, sir.
And do we need to make a motion to approve this report, or just?
No.
Okay.
Did you say Yvonne has some extra copies? Does anyone in the audience want a copy of this information?
And if you're having a slow day at your work or whatever, or you need a program, I'll be presenting the county health rankings next Friday to the Citizen Club, and I'd be happy to come and present to your organization also.
Okay, thanks again, Dr. Thompson. Mr. Monroe, manager report.
Nothing for you.
Okay, nothing to report tonight on the chairman report. The only thing I have, I sent it to you earlier this week about the Sand Hill opening up 3 facilities in the county.
Megan, raise your hand.
Okay, we'll move right along to commission concern. Mr. Gatewood, do you want to add? Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the board for this opportunity tonight. I have 4 items on the agenda that was sent out to everyone, listing 4 commissioner concerns. But before I get to my commissioner concerns, I'd like to convey a compliment, quite frankly. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to Mr. Monroe and staff for having those ugly old holly bushes removed from around the gazebo at the courthouse. It looks a lot cleaner during daylight hours and much safer at night. I've received several positive comments from citizens from my district and other districts, and I just want to convey our sincere appreciation for that great work. Now to my concerns, and there's nothing on here that I have not already discussed with Mr. Monroe, Mr. Garner, and certainly many of the members of the commission. First, a very important item, and that is I'd like for Mr. Monroe or Mr. Garner to give us a progress report for upfitting the old Walmart space on Highway 74 as an alternative for the Department of Social Services.
Okay, I think Mr. Monroe will do the first 2, Mr. Gatewood, and then the second 2 will be done by Mr. Finance Officer, Mr. Garner.
If it's okay with the chairman, I'd like to take them one at a time because I do have some comments.
Okay, he would, okay,
No problem.
Mr. Manager, if you would, explain number one, and then I think he have comments.
So as recently as this past Monday, we entered into a contract with Mosley, which was the firm that built or designed the first DSS building that we were going to move forward with. They were more than willing to work with us in designing the upfit of the Walmart building. It's going to take them at least 2 months to come up with a design and plan that for that place. They're going to start phase one. They have 2 phases. The first phase is about 2 weeks. They'll be here on site to go take a look at it, get the specs, see what needs to be done to it, and then give us an estimate of what it's going to cost for just that side of things. The next phase is going to be a 6-week time period, and that's when they actually do the design work to take their T shape and conduct, reconfigure that to our square shape at the Walmart building. So we should have an estimate, cost estimate coming from Mosley in about 2 months in regards to that. So before we can't move any further until we have a design and a cost. So that's what we're trying to do right now.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
As far as using that building, how many years can we have it with no increase in rent or something like that? What's going to be that?
Well, that's a different company. That'd be Brixmore. That's the people who lease the company, who own the property, who will lease it from. I've seen various different contracts from this company in different areas, and it's usually about we're looking at a 15-year time period for us. The contracts I've seen have gone up to 20 years. And what they've done in that time period is they have an increase every 5 years in that 20-year period. So most recently, Person County in Roxborough, North Carolina, they entered into a contract in 2007, I think it was. And for the next 20 years, they were going to have to lease that property. Every 5 years, they've seen a 10% increase in their rent. We're not going to do that. We're not going to have that same situation, hopefully. But we don't know what it's going to be until we enter that lease with them, and that's still some months away.
Okay, Mr. Gaywood.
I do have just a note of caution. The citizens I've talked to over the past couple of months are concerned about spending taxpayer dollars for design work for DSS or any other project unless the board is fully committed to the project. Again, just a word of caution.
Okay, item number 2 of his concerns, this came from Commissioner Sykes and Commissioner Smith that wanted Mr. Monroe to look at the middle school. Go ahead, Mr.
I can follow up with that. So in consideration, after last month's presentation from the school board, question came up about what's going to happen with the school once we move forward with building a new middle school. What's going to happen with the old middle school? And it's a good question, and we haven't had any determination or any conversation around that. Both Commissioner Smith and Sykes mentioned what happened with what could this be? Could it be a DSS building? And I gave it some thought. I talked to Superintendent Freeman. We took a tour of the facility late April, I believe it was, just to see what it looks like. And then we followed up last week with a tour of the Anson County School Administration Building, because that's a very similar model I guess we would look at if we were to move forward with it. It was a school building that was built around the same time frame. It has some of the same architectural work. And if you've seen what they've done at the administration building, it was a classy, well-done redesign. So the transition from a school to an office building can be done. But I haven't moved any further than that. We're going to talk to Mr. Freeman about the cost it took to upfit their building, the cost, the time frame that it took, and if any other extenuating circumstances of asbestos or any real structural issues that they came across. So we're still in the process of finding out what that will look like. But I'm trying to exhaust all my opportunities, all my alternatives.
You're doing a great job.
Whenever you close that school, the day that you close it, the next day, you better have a solution. Because if you don't have a solution for several months, you won't have a school to deal with.
What do you mean, Dr. Sims, if I may follow up to your comment?
The history in Anson County is if you leave a school and you leave it sitting there for an extended amount of time, it becomes a slum. Just be honest.
That have happened with schools that were closed.
And some of the buildings, well, you take Hansville School, for example, and I could go to any of them, I'm not picking on Hansville. But their cafeteria, for example, was a good building. It got destroyed, one of the first ones. I mean, just totally destroyed, almost brick by brick. Don't know what they're using it for. I don't know why. Might not even been anybody local.
Well, let me share my concern, if I may, Chairman Streeter. Last month, Superintendent Michael Freeman gave the board an excellent 40-minute presentation highlighting the horrible condition of the current middle school facility. The content of his report was not surprising to me at all, as the middle school facility has been in bad shape for a long time. Now, what I noted from Mr. Freeman's presentation are the following key points. Number one, the current middle school is suffering from structural fatigue. Staff constantly must monitor the full facility to ensure that the building is safe for occupancy. Number three, there are ongoing challenges with leaking roofs, sewer problems, water outages, electrical services, and security issues. And lastly, heating and air conditioning units need to be replaced throughout the campus. Parking lot needs attention, and the list goes on and on. And Mr. Freeman, if I missed anything, please correct me, or if I have anything incorrect, please correct me. But after listening to Mr. Freeman's report, I was left with the impression that once the new middle school opens, the current old middle school building should be condemned and demolished, as it's unfit for occupancy.
I don't remember him
potentially
saying that.
dangerous.
I don't think Mr. Freeman said that needed to take place.
I'm saying it.
Oh, you saying it.
I'm
Okay.
saying it.
In all fairness, I thought the same thing.
What did you think, Mr.?
I thought it was going to be condemned, not used for anything else. But I'm not saying it couldn't have. I mean, that was just my premonition.
Well, that was the impression I was left with after listening to the report from Mr. Freeman, that the building is really unfit for human occupancy. And the best course of action is to demolish it.
My thought was this: if it's not safe enough for a child, why would it be safe for an indigent adult? Past that, I'm not going to get into it. I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Garner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. I've got two items here that Commissioner Gatewood had asked about. One would be a progress report on the annual financial audit of 18. All I can tell you at this point is the auditors were on site again yesterday. They'll be back again tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow is the last day of field work, and then we can start working towards a resolution of when they'll be presenting it to our board here. To move on to the AFR information, which is posted for 17, one of the contributing delays is the auditor that we used for 17, who posted our AFR information. So the auditors that we're with now, Thompson Price, who did our 14 and 15 audits, 15 and 16 audits, will be doing our 18 as they are now. Part of what they're doing is determining where they left us in 16 and where they picked us up in July of 17. So there's kind of a gap that they're doing in addition to our regular audit. That will require some adjusting entries. It will require our AFR of 17 being restated, and at the same time our 18 being entered into the state system. So that's kind of a rundown from a 30,000 foot view of where we're at with this. be happy to entertain any questions.
Just one follow-up question, and that is the information, the financial information that's listed presently on the state treasurer's website is incorrect.
That is correct.
But that will be corrected.
That is correct. That is part of what they're doing. So Thompson Price is not only doing 18, but they're clarifying year in 17, which will reflect in a better presentation than what is presently stated on our AFR in terms of our ending fund balances and our unrestricted fund balances. The revenue, oddly enough, is overstated, but you will find that the unrestricted fund balance will be in our favor, or moving in a favorable direction, however you want to look at that. For 17 being restated, and then of course I continue that 18 is going to continue to improve our overall position.
Gary's doing a very good job. I want the board to know.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for the job.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Woodburn.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, back on the audits, just one quick, do we have a plan in place, or are we working on something that once we get current with audits with the state, that we won't get in this predicament again? Yes, sir. I should, excuse me, I failed to mention that. We have a staff meeting tomorrow, and I have the one last section of that. And one of the things we will be talking about is curtailing spending in current year 19. I would like to say, I'm glad you mentioned this because I had shared with Mr. Monroe that before, when we curtailed spending, folks, department heads, there are going to be expenses that you're going to have to incur all the way to the last minute, but planned purchases that departments have particularly put off, we would like to accelerate them so that they are budgeted and incurred and paid for in this year, so that we are not well past year end paying prior year invoices. But what I caution is this: before, this is kind of comical, but before, and I'll do a little bit better job tomorrow in trying to relay this information, but 2 years ago when we put this in action, there was a perception that we curtailed spending because we're running out of money, and that is not true. We are just trying to have everything land in the year in which we budgeted for it yet. But thank you. Good problem to have, but. Okay, thank you, Mr. Garner. I guess just keep us updated with whatever that plan happens to be, so that we know we're not going to have to worry about audits being behind in the future. Okay, this based on my concerns, just for informational purposes, these are meetings that I attended. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners District meeting was held on April 23rd in Rowan County, and I thought the conversation was kind of interesting because they've changed the format of these district meetings. That's something that the association's been doing for years, and basically they would come and just kind of see what was happening in the district to kind of monitor the health of the counties. And we're in District 10. District 10 consists of Anson, Montgomery, Moore, and Richmond counties. This district meeting actually included District 12 as well. But I thought it was kind of interesting, the topic of discussion, because this was decided before the meeting, and this is what's going to happen going forward. It was the tier system. And basically what's happening with the tier system, I don't know who all is aware of it or how much information you might have on it, but apparently there's some concern that the tier system is, I guess, inefficient, for lack of a better term. At this meeting, I was actually the only Tier 1 county attendee, so they asked for my input. And what's happening with the tier system, the Tier 3 counties, the ones that were, Moore County was the one represented, their county manager made a report, as well as the town manager from Robbins, I believe it was. And what's happening in Moore County, they're listed as a Tier 3 county, but they have pockets of Tier 1 municipalities within the county. And as we know, the tier system is used for distribution of funds from the state and federal government, but mostly from the state. So their concern is that it needs to be revisited. And interestingly enough, I went to the North Carolina Rural Center policy luncheon today in Scotland County. Believe it or not, the topic of conversation was the tier system.
Opposite, I bet.
Not so much. Basically, the people that made the presentation at this event was just a broad overlook of what the tier system is. Everybody's saying it just needs to be fixed. In Rowan County, they recognize that the tier 3 counties need something different. But I don't know if they said it because I was there, but they said they didn't want to do anything to hurt the tier 1 counties. The main thing is I think we need to keep our finger on the pulse of this tier system because it's also getting some momentum in the legislature as well. Matter of fact, what was presented today is that there's a bill that's looking at adding 5 more tiers. So we don't know what the outcome of that will be, but like I said, because of the activity that's happening along this line, and we are tier 1 county, and we know what the benefits are, especially when it comes to community development block grants. I don't think we want anything that's going to negatively impact us when they get ready to redo this. And my concern is with the tier 3 counties driving it, you know, we may get left out in the cold. So that's something else that we need to just keep in the back of our minds. And like I said, keep our finger on the pulse, talk to our legislators, and make sure that we know what they're thinking and what they're trying to drive, and make sure it's in our best interest. We need to let them know how we feel and what we expect.
What level of power do the tier 1 people have in the legislature or in the political system?
Okay.
Do you have any big wheels?
Matter of fact, there are more legislators from tier 1 counties at this point than there are from tier 2 and tier 3. So in numbers, we're in good shape. But as we know, when you get to Mecklenburg counties, the Wake counties, and all those areas, you know,
how many tier 1 counties are
right now, that's the tier
40,
system. Yeah,
40 tier 1 counties.
right. This is tier 1's 40, tier 2's 40, and tier 3's 20. That covers the whole 100 counties. And that's kind of one of the things they're saying may need to be looked at. And I was told today that the reason they're looking at 5 tiers is they would just say 20, 20, 20, 20. That way it would change the makeup a little bit. But my concern is some of the requirements and what's being looked at is what we need to stay on top of. And there's information in your package. I thank Ms. Cannon for putting it in there that kind of explains the tier system. And you know, just for 2019, some counties moved up from tier 2 to tier 3, and some actually moved from tier 1 to tier 2.
I think Montgomery moved it.
They did. Yes, they did.
Well, let's take Moore County, for example. If they have pockets of semi-poverty, of need, and they're not being met, then the problem is that Moore County needs to come up with another process of redistributing their proceeds.
Basically, what they're saying, this is from the state level, they're saying we don't need to be a tier 3 county, maybe we need to be a tier 2. They know that they don't qualify for being tier 1. And also Lincoln County, they've got a lake there that covers about a quarter mile of one end of their county. Because of that, they're a tier 3 county. Those are some of the, I guess, imperfections with the tier system. But once again, like I said, the main thing we need to do is just stay on top of.
Did they talk about the value of the houses along that lake?
That's what's throwing the whole county into a tier 3 system. So you can see there are some valid concerns from the tier 3 counties, but I think we as a tier 1 county need to stay on top of those developments and make sure that what's happening or what's being generated doesn't negatively impact us as a tier 1 county.
More have Pinehurst.
That's the other thing. That's what's throwing them into their tier 3 situation. And like I said, you know, what I'm hearing from the tier 3 counties that are speaking up is because of these pockets of poverty, it's not fair to us to be a tier 3 county. They recognize that they don't qualify to be tier 1, but they're saying we need to be uniform. So if we got these pockets of poverty, we may need to be a tier 2 instead of a tier 3. But like I said, this is something that's moving. This is in the legislature, at least currently is, and not sure if anything's going to happen right now. But like I'm saying, the main thing is we need to stay on top of these developments and just stay abreast of them. And the other thing at the Rural Center Policy Luncheon, I gave each of you a packet that we received today, and it's got this little card, the Rural Council. The 3 things that they're pushing right now is broadband, health, and small business development, which all would benefit Anderson County. So there's also a form, and if you would like to help them, contact legislators and work on these, you can fill it out, sign it, and get it back to them. So that's basically about it. But like I said, I was kind of surprised that everywhere I've been here in the last month, the conversation has been the tier system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodburn. Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, do we have a closed session? Okay. Ms. Clerk, do we have anything this month that we need to attend?
As far as the meeting, we just need to adjourn, then we come back.
I want to recognize our county manager and our clerk. Everyone's familiar with what happened at the school, the shooting, and I reached out to them about sending something to let them know that they're in our prayers and thoughts and they have our condolences. And evidently our manager and the clerk got on it that very day and sent something. I just want to thank them for doing that.
One other thing I'll just mention too is, and actually I got the dates mixed up, so I didn't register for it, but tomorrow the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners is holding County Assembly Day, and that's where they ask commissioners from all across the state to come to Raleigh, and they visit the legislature, and you have a chance to speak to your legislators and let them know what's important to you and what you would like to see them do. And because of the economic development announcement here, which I was thinking was tomorrow, I didn't register, so I won't go this time. But I actually attended the legislature when I went to the North Carolina Association of Community College Trustees, that conference a couple of months ago. We went to the legislature. So I was able to talk to Representative Brody, but I was also able to talk to Senator McInnes, spend some time with him.
One thing I want us to do as a group, I love community service. I was fortunate enough to participate in the Special Olympics last Wednesday at the middle school. And I had my own buddy, can I call that name, Yvonne? Can I say, am I allowed to do it? I'll leave it, I ain't gonna say that part. But the sheriff and I was asked to do that final lap.
Y'all make
I walked it down. But I want us to get more involved with stuff like that. I want to thank Superintendent Preston for inviting us and going out there. It was great. I mean, it is something. I used to be in all the time, and something will come up. But I am determined. Every year I will be out there with them. It was just something to see, and the kids enjoyed the entire time. It was just really nice. And I want us to start being a part of it.
Come on out, 6 o'clock Friday night, downtown Waitsburg, we lay the light.
Oh yes, yes.
I have kids performing, so.
I already put my kids out. We're ready. Converse. Friday.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.